There we go. Thank you so much. Um, this is going to we're going to learn about different ways that we can actually cost out our menu items. And there's not just one way that's going to work for everything. I'm going to show you and demonstrate that as we go through. So you as a business owner, okay, as a manager, now if you're managing like a chain restaurant, chances are you have less flexibility because all that stuff is just given to you. However, if you have an independent restaurant, if you own your own bake shop, then you have more flexibility over this. All right. And so we have some things that impact our menu pricing. Okay. The market is one of those. The market comprises of a lot of different aspects. Okay. When you hear the word market, what do you think about?
Businesses.
Okay, businesses. What else?
Competition, something like the stock market. I was actually thinking a little on why people hate capitalism last night.
Okay. So yeah, you think about different competition. Good. What else?
Trading. Inflation.
Inflation, trading.
Big picture of customer competition.
Yeah, so it's like a big picture, right? We might say it, we might talk about like the San Antonio market is different from the New York City market. Okay. Different types of customers, the different types of businesses, the competition that exists, right? What the guest and or what the guests and customers expect in one market may not work in a different market. Um, and vice
Um,
versa. What works really well in one market doesn't mean you can always just pick it up and put it into a different market. The people,
uh,
the competitors, the businesses in that area, they may not respond the same as people in a certain market. Yes, Amaya.
Which one were we supposed to download again? I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll talk about that when we
You
get
said
there.
something we need to download?
We'll talk about that when we
Okay.
get there. Um, so uh the market is our competition. These are external forces. Okay, they're outside of our company. We really don't have a lot of control over that. We don't have control over what our competition is charging. Okay, if we have a chicken sandwich and our competition has a chicken sandwich, we call them and say, "Hey, you're only charging $10 and I want to charge 12. I need you to charge 12, so we're charging the same." Can you do that? No, right? They're your competition. They're going to charge whatever they want to charge. Okay.
well,
And so if they do me a favor, if you have a question, you can raise your hand virtually online so I can take a look at that. Okay. That will prevent a lot of these interruptions. Um, so with that, with your competition, it's you can't always dictate, right, what they are offering, what you may be able to offer at a different value or different price. That comes in with that price value relationship. Okay. How many of you have ever been to a place where you left a meal and you're like, wow, that really wasn't worth what I paid for it? Have you ever had that experience before?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so with that price value relationship, did you ever go back to that place?
Depends.
Depends.
Give it
Maybe you tried
time.
something different on the menu.
Give it time.
Maybe like the service was good, but the value for that particular food item wasn't great. So maybe you're gonna try that the next time, right? Or maybe you just say, I'm not gonna go back to that place.
Depends on the restaurant, like Chili's, you can have a good day and you can have a bad day.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it does depend. It can depend, yeah. It always is kind of nice to give benefit of the doubt. However, sometimes our normal average guests don't look at things from a hospitality perspective and think, well, everyone just has a bad day. They may
It's
one
rare.
and done, right? They're never going to come back. And so if we sometimes we'll talk about in this chapter, we'll talk about how we might change our menu to help things maybe be more popular. Maybe we might make them more profitable by changing our recipe a little bit. But if we change the recipe, then potentially that could impact the quality, which then people don't find the price value relationship. Okay. We'll talk about markup differentiation here in just a second. So those external factors include our market-driven pricing, okay? Demand-driven pricing. What is an example of demand-driven pricing?
Not like where you raise the price because it's in high demand.
Okay, so you raise it because it's in high demand. How much do we pay for chicken on a stick during Fiesta?
More.
We pay more. Is it worth the $12 for a chicken on a stick with a jalapeno, a canned jalapeno? Right now, and it used to be like a nice chicken breast that was deep fried and it had the fresh roll on top with the jalapeno. And now it's like a chicken patty from like Fred's Fish Fry, right? On a stick. The quality has gone down, but the price has gone up, right? But if I'm at Nyosa and I really want a chicken on a stick, can I go leave and come back and eat that, bring that chicken on a stick in with me? No, I gotta pay for it there. Okay, that's demand.
No, but
Same. Go
you
ahead.
might
Yes.
be able to charge. You might be able to charge more if you brought the quality back up. If you made chicken breast instead of did that like chicken patty that you were talking about, you'd be able to charge more and word of mouth would get around because hey, everyone else is offering the chicken patty for $12. You go do the chicken breast, the actual good stuff, for like $13 or $15.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you gotta. I think you have a business plan for Fiesta next year. Right? Demand-driven pricing.
I
Same
already work setting up
airports.
chairs.
So airports is the same thing. If you really want to eat your Whataburger before you go get on that flight, you can't leave the airport. You already gone through security. You can't leave, go get your Whataburger and come back, right? You got to eat there. So they're going to charge a different pricing. At one point, we had Whataburger over here at the Frost Bank Center. Before the pandemic, up until 2 o'clock, it was regular Whataburger prices. And then after 2 o'clock, if there was a game day or an event day, then the prices would then change to the higher event prices. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they ever brought it back as like a neighborhood restaurant. I wish they would because it's close. Yes, go ahead.
So like for hotels, when there's events and stuff and the prices go up, that's the demand driven pricing as well? Or what is that?
Yeah, so I mean, hotels in that regard, we use a supply and demand model where if the supply is really low and the demand is really high, we're going to charge a higher price. But at the same time, though, this is more about like the menu is going to stay pretty constant, whereas hotels fluctuate on a day-to-day basis as demand and supply change. So it's not like at our restaurant, when we first open, we have 50 New York strips and they cost this much. And as we get down to our last two, we're going to charge a higher price. We're not going to change it in that regard. But yeah, hotels do like a demand-driven pricing as well. We call it dynamic pricing. That price value relationship we talked about a little bit already. Okay. And then markup differentiation. Oh, Jasmine, go ahead. What's your question?
Oh, I was gonna ask if a few months ago, when we had like the whole egg thing, would that be like a demand-driven pricing?
We had the what?
The eggs.
Um, you know, that might be something, not necessarily demand-driven pricing. Think about demand-driven pricing on a menu as being like focused on the location, right? Now we may, especially if our guests understand that there's an egg shortage, right? The price of eggs has gone up. We may offer like we may sell like a surcharge or something for eggs, or we may actually change our menu price. But then once that price goes down, once those ingredient costs go down, then usually the price would come back down.
So would that be market driven?
That'd be market driven, maybe like supply driven. Yeah. Because we can't control the cost of our ingredients, especially in a situation like that. Markup differentiation just basically says that we have to essentially look at different categories, and they allow us to mark things up by a certain percentage. Okay. And we can't mark everything up by the same percentage because then that prices things way out of what that price value relationship is. Okay. So if you look, we've got about a 90% markup on beverages. Okay. 90% markup. And so remember, this is the markup is on top of what it costs us to make, right? So let's do a quick example. How much does our beverage, let's say our iced tea that I'm drinking, how much does that iced tea cost the restaurant to make?
19 cents.
Yeah, about 20 cents. Let's call it 25 cents, right? Actually, let's call it 20 cents for math purposes. So it cost me 20 cents. Okay. So with a 90% markup, that means 90% on top of what it cost me to make, right? So I'm going to multiply by 1.9. Okay. So what is do we understand why I'm doing 1.9? Remember in chapter 2, we were talking about budgets by increasing by a percentage. The 1 is going to multiply by the 20, and then the 0.9 is going to multiply by the 20 as well. Right? Let me simplify it. Hold on. So I see a lot of confused looks. So if I multiply the 0.20 times 0.9, what do I get? 1.8?
0.18.
0.18. Okay. And then I add that to my 20. This is not working out the way I wanted to. I'm going off script, and I should never go off script. Yeah, let's scratch this for a second. Let's do. Okay, so it costs us 20 cents. Okay. If we have a 90% markup, okay, then that means we're looking at about a 10% food cost or beverage cost. You guys follow me so far? 90% markup, that means 10% of that is the food cost. Okay. So if we multiply, no, cost, we're looking for, let me do my triangle. Cost percent sales. Okay. If I'm looking for how much to sell it for, and I divide this by 0.1, right? That's my 10%. What do I get? What is 0.2 divided by 0.1?
$2.
$2. Does that sound about right? That we sell our iced tea for $2?
Yeah.
Even more now, right? We might sell it for $3, right? So this is, again, that price value relationship. Math tells me I should sell it for at least $2. But if I can get away with selling it for $2.50, right? Then that's gonna lower my food cost, my beverage cost percentage. Now let's apply the same thing to a steak. If my steak costs me $35, that costs me the restaurant, not what I'm selling it for, but that costs me the restaurant $35. If I sell it with a 10% food cost, what should my menu price be? Based on math. $350. How many people do you think how many steaks do you think I'm gonna sell for $350? Right? Depends on where I am. If I'm in Vegas, maybe I could get away with that, right? But not in San Antonio, you're not gonna get away with that. And so we can't apply these percentages equally, right? The higher the cost of the ingredient, the higher the food cost percentage has to be. And so that's why when we talk about that 30 to 33% average, that's average of the whole menu, not necessarily just one ingredient. So some ingredients might have a higher food cost percentage because they have higher cost ingredients. Some of them might have lower, like our beverages. That's where we get a lot of our money from, a lot of our profit, right? We get $1.90 for every tea that we sell. But let's say I sell my steak for $70, then I only get $35 for every steak that I sell. And so the more beverages I can add, that markup or that price differentiation is higher. Okay. The next one is a factor method. So the next method I'm going to talk about is the factor method. One of them that we're not going to talk about today is the triangle. That's the food cost percentage. Okay. We've already talked a lot about that in previous, so we're not going to talk about it so much this class. And so the next one is our factor method. To determine what our factor is, okay, has anybody ever heard, talk to a chef before? They just say, take whatever it cost you and multiply it by 3. Multiply that cost and multiply it by 3. Essentially, they're looking at a 33% food cost. Okay, so what we do is we take 100 and we divide by the ideal food cost percentage. So let's do an example right here. 25. My goal is to have a 25% food cost. Okay, so if I take 100 and I divide by 25, what do I get?
Oh, by 25.
4. So my factor is 4. So I can multiply $2.50 times 4. And my menu price is $10. See how that works? Now, if I wanted to, I could do my triangle. 225, 25%, and then my selling price. And if I did that math, I would still get $10. But which one is easier to do in your head? A triangle or 250 times 4?
But just 250 times 4 though.
What's that?
But just 250 times 4, you did the 100 divided by 20.
Well, yeah, you can get 100 divided by 25, and that's 4, right? And so that stuff you can kind of just do in your head as you go. Now, when we get to, Amaya, I see your hand, I'll get you in just one second. When we get to other factors that are more decimal related, it's not necessarily as easy to do in your head. So for example, if we look here, 20%, 25%, those are all even up to 40%. Those are a little bit easier to do in your head, okay? Because you can just multiply by the whole numbers versus other ones that are more decimal related, okay? But how we find that factor, how we find this factor over here is simply divide 100 by the ideal percentage, and that will get us what our factor is, okay? So, Amaya, guess what's your question?
I think you answered it because I was wondering where the 4 came from.
Yeah, so that's our factor. We have our 25% right here. And so this is our factor of 4. So the factor method allows you to just simply multiply the cost by whatever the factor is, right? If we wanted to have a 25% food cost, we just multiply everything by 4. And that would just give us our suggested selling price without a 25% food cost.
Wait, so
What is- Sorry, go ahead.
why are we dividing 100 by 25 if we already know our factor?
No. So in order to find the factor, you have to divide 100 by the ideal percentage. That's the first step.
Ooh. Okay, and
So
then
let's do
after
the
that
next.
we do.
Let's do the next one. If we're looking for a 30%, okay, what is 100 divided by 30? Is 3.33 repeating, right? Okay, forever. Now we know that 30%, 3.33, because it's on the chart, but we don't always have a chart. Okay. So what is 3 times 3.33 repeating?
10.
It's essentially $9.99. Okay. $9.99. You see that? Is there a difference between $9.99 and $10? 1 penny, yes, there is one penny, yes. However, if you're Mr. Uminski, I look at this number and I'm like, oh, that's only $9. So there's psychology where people actually only focus on that first number. And then I'm like, oh, that's only $9. But it literally is 1 penny away from $10. Right? So there is psychology behind pricing of your menu items. And you're like, oh, that's only $9. Okay. So psychology wise, there is somewhat of a difference. All right, 40%. If we divide 100 by 40, that's our ideal percentage, what is our factor?
2.5.
2.5. So now we can multiply by 2.5. And what is 1525 times 2.5?
38.125.
Okay, so 3813, 3812, 3813. Okay, and then the last one. What is our factor? What is 100 divided by 10? Our factor is 10. So that's where we're going to multiply by 10. And we get $1.50. Right? Amaya, do you still have a question or was that hand from earlier? Oh, perfect. Okay.
Sorry, no.
Any questions about the factor method? All right, let's do another one. Contribution margin. Okay, so the contribution margin, what contributes to the profit and the non-food cost. So we have our food ingredient costs, and then we have all of our non-food costs like rent, insurance, salaries, wages, all that stuff, right? And then we also have our profit built into that. And so what we do is take the non-food cost and we add our profit together. This is our ideal expenses, right? And then we divide that by the number of guests that we think and anticipate we're going to have. So in this case, what's 5,000 plus 3,000?
8,000.
$8,000. And I'm going to anticipate 2,000 guests. So what is my contribution margin per guest? $4. Okay, so I add $4 because that $4 is going to cover my non-food cost and profit. And then this $2.50 is going to cover my food cost. And then I have all my costs and all my everything, all my stuff covered. So if I add these two together, what is the total for my first menu item? $6.50. What about number 2? $7. And number 3, $19.25. And number 4, $4.15. Okay. We all see where we got those selling prices over there on that far right column? So this $4, every time somebody comes in and I sell this item for $6.50, $2.50 of that goes to cover my food cost, and the other $4 goes to cover my non-food cost and my profit. Okay. Take a look at these numbers compared to these numbers. Which two, 1, 2, 3, 4, which two are the most drastic in price? Which two are the most drastic?
The first.
The third.
15.
The third, oops, what did I just do?
I don't know.
There we go. The third one, $19.25 compared to $38, right? So that's almost $20 difference. And then the other one that's most drastic is number 3. Is that the one you just talked about? And number 4. From $1.50 to $4.15. Right? So think about a beverage. $1.50 versus $4.15. Okay. So if we're talking about a steak, adding just $4 to the cost of our ingredient probably isn't the best method to go with, right? Probably want a little bit more profit off of that item than just that $4, right? So I use this as an example to demonstrate that you can't always just use one method. One method is not always going to be the end all be all. So you have to kind of think about it from a perspective, again, go back to that price value relationship. How many iced teas are you going to sell if you sell them for $4.15? You might get those people that really want that tea or really want that soda. But then the people who like, maybe $3 is my threshold, I'm just going to have water, right? Versus people, if you sell it for $1.50, right? You're gonna be making $1.35 on every tea that goes out. So you might sell more of them, right? And so then think about that extra $1.15. If you have 200-300 customers a day, how that could add up over time. Whereas if you make it, a little bit more affordable, maybe more people would actually want to buy it. Does that make sense? All right. The other one is our Q factor method. The last one is our Q factor method. How many of you ever ordered something where something comes complimentary with it? Like you order a menu item, like maybe you order an entree, and then it comes with a salad, it comes with soup, it comes with a side, right? So with the Q factor, what that is telling us is we're going to add up all of those free items, the cost of those free items, and we're going to build them into the cost of what we're going to sell it for. Okay. So in this case, we're using a barbecue plate. So our brisket costs $2.91. Okay. And then the Q factor is all of our starch, vegetable, roll, salad, the salad dressing, the butter, the jalapeno onions and pickles, all those condiments, right? The cost, all of those cost something. So even though the customer thinks they're getting it for free, okay, you can't just give that stuff away for free. You've paid for it. And so you take that Q factor and you build it into the cost. So rather than, even though that brisket only cost me $2.91, the barbecue sauce and then the Q factor, actually my menu cost item is $6.75. And that is what I would put up here in my triangle. And then depending on what my percentage is, that will tell me how much I should sell it for. Okay. That $6.75 is not what I'm selling it for. That's what it costs me to make. Right. But if you think about it with the Q factor, let's say we just supplement sausage or ribs or chicken or turkey, right? We substitute the protein, but everything else is the same. The salad, the starch, the vegetable, all that is the same. And you use that Q factor so you don't have to keep doing math over and over and over again. You just get that one-time Q factor of 343. Now, what happens? What kind of sides do we sell with barbecue? Potato salad, green beans, mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese.
Good. What's that?
Rolls.
Rolls, okay. So for the sides, mac and cheese, green beans, and potato salad, which one's the most expensive?
Potatoes? Macaroni.
I would say mac and cheese with the dairy and the butter and all of that, right? The cheese and the milk that goes into it probably is going to be more expensive than a potato salad. Okay. So whatever's our most expensive cost is what we should include in our Q factor. So then every time I sell potato salad, I'm gonna make a little bit more money, right? Because I'm building my cost based on mac and cheese. I'm doing my cost for my vegetables based on green beans, or maybe I'm doing like collard greens, which are not necessarily more expensive, but they take a lot longer to make than corn on the cob or things like that, right? So there's more labor involved with that, but more labor intensive. I'm gonna put those ingredients, those recipes as part of my Q factor. So then that way, when somebody purchases something different, then it actually kind of helps boost my profit just a little bit. Not much, but just a little bit. Over time, that might make a difference. But then that way, at least when somebody orders mac and cheese, I know that I have my food costs covered. Versus, okay, I'm just gonna find the average of the expenses, and then every time I sell these lower ones, it'll even out with somebody that orders mac and cheese. Well, what if everybody orders mac and cheese? Right? We're gonna be losing money if we're not actually selling it for the price that we need to sell it for. So anytime you see those types of things, when you're creating those menus, you want to make sure that when you're pricing it, that it is it's priced effectively. Okay. Or let me add one more little caveat. Okay. Or maybe mac and cheese is a premium side, right? Let's say it comes out that it feels like it's too expensive and people don't want to pay $3 for potato salad because it's or coleslaw, right? So maybe you have your classic sides, and then for mac and cheese, it adds $1 to the price. And so then you can still get your expenses covered that way, and you can maybe not price yourself out where people don't want to buy it. Okay. So lots of different options to consider. All right, in your notes page, I would like you to draw this. On your notes page, I'd like you to draw this. I'm going to give you a handout. There is a blank one of these on the back. Please do not write on that yet. If you find a blank space on this page, you're welcome to use it. But please don't fill out the square on the back side yet. For those of you who are online, this is the time where you want to download the in-class chapter 4 activity that's in week 4 module.
Oh.
Is it the popularity?
Yes.
Okay.
For right now, go ahead and just draw what you see on the screen. So I'm going to close that in just a moment. In addition to what you see on the screen, I'd like you also to put an H and an L and an L and an H.
Mr. Minsky, do you want us to work off the download on our laptops?
Say that one more time.
Do you want us to work off of our download on the laptops? Like we just fill out the document online?
Yeah, if you're working on the semester or the chapter in class chapter notes page, you can do it on that notes page, yes.
Yes, sir.
And profitability refers to what? Contribution. Talked about it just like 5 seconds ago. Contribution margin, right? That contribution margin is what tells us our profitability. Okay. So as you're finishing up, I'm going to go ahead and kind of talk about how we look at and use this tool to analyze our menu. Okay. So this is a type of tool or type of graph that you can actually utilize to put things in different categories based on two criteria. Okay. So we have our popularity percentage. So we have our popularity percentage and we have our contribution margin. Okay. That will tell us what category these go into. So if we have high popularity, okay, see where my dot is for high popularity? And we have high contribution margin, so high and high. When I draw a straight line, where do they intersect? In the star, okay? So if it's highly popular and it's a high contribution margin, that means it is our star performer or star performers, okay? So a lot of people like it and it brings us a lot of money. It contributes to our bottom line, okay? Then if we have low popularity, but we have high contribution margin, we draw our straight lines, and where do they intersect? In the puzzle. Okay. The way I remember that is I am puzzled, I'm confused why people don't like it. All right. It brings me a lot of money, but I'm confused as to why it's not more popular. Puzzled. Okay. Don't ask me why these things are called this way, because I don't know. I just tell you how I remember them. All right. Then low popularity, but low contribution margin. Yeah, we draw a straight line, and where do they intersect? In the dog. Okay. And then finally, high popularity, low contribution margin. We draw our lines, and where they intersect? In the plow horse. The way I remember the plow horse is everybody likes it, super popular, but it doesn't bring me a lot of money, right? So it's just chugging along, doing its job, bringing
So
people
kind of
in.
like, so kind of like French fries.
Yeah, right. So bring it. Well, I don't know. French fries might be a star because they may have a high contribution margin. But we wouldn't know unless we actually did the numbers. I'm going to show you how to do the numbers here in just a second. But with that plow horse, it's just, maybe that's what brings people into our restaurant. That's what attracts people to come in, and then they may buy something else as well, right? And so what we can do when we think about our plow horses, we might change our menu, might change our recipe, which might lessen or might increase our contribution margin, or we might increase the price. If we sell it for $10 and everybody loves it, what if we sell it for $12? Do people still love it as much? Right? And if we add that $2, does it bump it over to that high contribution margin, which then would make it a star?
What about, instead of like bumping it up like $2 right off the bat, like you bump it up 50 cents?
Yeah,
You
you
wait
could-
another year, maybe do it
Yeah.
for 50 cents. So that way it's not as.
That's drastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So we used to sell more things from the bakery, like from the baked goods the pastry students make downstairs. But we would often have we have to have a $5 minimum on credit card purchases. And so they would sell something for $5 just to have that minimum, right? Or they try to get enough product together that somebody would be, it's worth paying $5 for this amount of product. And then I remember we were selling like cakes for $7 or things like that. And I was just like, okay, well, why not next week? Why don't we charge $8? And then next week, why don't we charge $9?
Mhm.
And then we see when people stop buying and go back to the most recent dollar amount, right? So if people are willing to pay $8 and you're selling it for $7, that means you're losing out every time someone buys, you're losing out on $1. right? So we had this conversation in my morning class today, my management leadership class today. So we serve lunch here in the building, right? For the Chef 1300 class, the Chef 1345, and the RSTO 2405 class. Those are our three service classes. And right now we sell at $15 for a three-course meal downstairs. And we sell upstairs at Artemisia's a four-course meal for about $20, right? When I was a student here in 2009, lunch was $9 and dinner was $12. And it was the exact same menus. It was the exact same menus as we have today with a little bit of change, but not much change. But even then, the lunch and dinner was the exact same menu. We'd sell lunch for $9 and dinner for $12. And people were like freaking out that they had to pay $12. And then we come over here and now $15. And people are like, oh my gosh, $15. That's a lot of money. For a three-course meal, that's not really a lot of money, right? $20 for a four-course meal. Well, the Friday night class, which is RSTO 2405, we had a Friday night class in the spring of last year, this past spring semester, and they sold their menus for $25 because they were using bigger proteins like steak, like filet mignon, sea bass, lamb, right? So they were experimenting with higher quality proteins. And so they raised the price to 25 and they were sold out almost every single week. Because the community, people who normally would go out for a four-course meal, think about a couple going to a steakhouse, you're probably going to pay $50, $60 per person, whereas a couple can come here for $50 for two people. You know? And so that price value relationship kind of pays off. And so that's how we're going to, essentially what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at individual items, okay? So to do that, let's switch over here to our Excel page. Those of you who are online, you can feel free to follow along. When we are looking for our popularity percentage, okay, what the popularity index essentially is, excuse me, I think that's all of a sudden. Popularity index essentially is a percentage. What is the universal formula for percentage? Part over the whole, right? So our first step is to add all items sold. That's our first step. We want to add up all the items that were sold. In step 2, we want to divide each item by the total. Okay? So if we sold 64 steak entrees and their popularity index, what is that if we sold 320? So we start with 64, we sold 64 steaks. The total was 320. So what is our popularity percentage? 64 divided by 320 is 0.2, which we know is 20%. So 20% of my entrees sold that day were steaks. Okay. If we sell chicken, all right, so if we sell 25 chicken entrees, what is the popularity if we sold 75 total? So what is 25 chicken divided by 75? We know is a third, right? Which is 33.3%. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns about how we figured that out? How we doing on time? Gonna move things right along. All right. So now I have figured out your popularity percentages for you for the first four. The next four you have to figure out on your own. Okay, so what was the first step we have to do? You have to add them all up, right? So take a look at this real quick. I'm gonna highlight these in Excel. And when I highlight them at the very bottom, it says sum of 500. Sum of 500. And then you're going to do what? We want to do each item and we want to divide by 500 because that's our total. Okay.
Question, Mr. Aminsky.
Yes, sir.
Do we divide it by the whole or by the 20 point, like say, the bacon cheeseburger, 100 divided by 500, is that 20.0, or do we divide it by the whole number, so just 20?
The 20 is fine. But the 20 is our answer. It's no, that's where we stop. Yeah, that's our answer. 100 divided by 500 is 20%. So you can check your work up here on the screen. 20% for bacon cheeseburgers, BLTs are 16%, corn dogs are 44%, and veggie burgers are 6%. Okay. How can we test to see if we did our math right for our percentages?
Times 500.
Add them all up and what?
Times 500.
Okay. And if we, yeah, so if we add all these and they equal 100, then we did our math right. Okay. So we do that, we got our math right because it equals 100%. If by chance we have like 101 or like 99.8, that's because of the rounding of the decimals. And so that's okay. But if you get like 105, then you've done something wrong. Okay. But right around that 100, you should have, it should be okay. Plus or minus like 1. Okay. So what's our most popular item?
The bacon cheeseburger.
Bacon cheeseburger. Excellent. What's our least popular item?
The veggie burger.
The corn dogs. Okay, we know that high and low, but where's everything else fall? Okay, we don't know. We're gonna find that out in just a second. If you flip your page over, Okay, my percentages, I'm gonna copy them down here. Okay, so go ahead and copy your percentages over 20, 16, 4, and 6. Okay. We have to find the popularity benchmark. What is a benchmark? We know what a benchmark is? That? You've heard it before?
Like a basis.
Yeah, it's the basis. Thank you, Andrew. Right, that's the number that we're going to look at to compare everything else to, right? So for the popularity benchmark, this is really important. We're going to take 100, okay? We take 100%. We divide by the number of items on the menu. How many items do we have on this particular menu? 8. So if we take 100 and divide by 8, what is the average percentage? 12.5%. Okay, so far, if we take 100% and we divide by 8, that is our average. Okay, that's our average percentage. So if everything was 12.5%, then that means everything would be equally distributed. That'd be all the average. right? For whatever reason, with popularity percentage, they want to give you a percentage of the average popularity. Okay. And so, Amaya, I see your hand. Just give me just 1 second. Okay. So they want to figure out this percentage of the average popularity. And so to do that, our second step here is to multiply by the given percentage. Okay. So we multiply 0.75. When we multiply 12.5 times 0.75, what do we get? 9.375, so we're gonna make that 9.4. So that is our benchmark. 9.4 is our benchmark. Okay,
Where do we get 75%?
so that number will always be given to you. In
Oh.
this class, you'll always be given that number. For you as a business owner, you have to decide what that number is going to be. So what we're saying here, so let me kind of explain it in a different way. What I'm saying here is if a menu item is higher than 9.4, that means it is 75% of the average popularity. So the average popularity is 12.5. And so to be considered popular, it needs to have at least 75% of that average. Okay, and so if we look at here, let me move some stuff around. Is 15%, is that higher or lower than 9.5? Higher. Is 17? Higher. Crab cakes, 8% is lower. Good. Chili cheeseburger? Higher. Bacon cheeseburger? Higher. BLT? Higher. And corn dogs? Lower. And veggie burgers are lower. Okay. Amaya, what's your question?
I had two questions.
Okay, go ahead.
My first question is where you got the number 8 from.
So the number 8 came from the number of menu items we have. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 100, how do you find the average of anything? You add them all up and divide by the number we have, right? So that's what we're doing with that 100 divided by 8 is finding the average percentage. Okay. What's your second question?
My second question is how am I supposed to download the worksheet? Like, is that something we need to turn in?
No, this is for your notes page, but
Okay.
I'll work with you after class.
Okay.
Okay, because we have about 13 minutes left and I want to make sure we get through this next little bit.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so that's our first piece of the puzzle. That's our popularity, high or low. Okay, but can we determine what category they go into yet?
No.
Why?
Because we don't know how much they cost.
You know, the contribution margin, right? So contribution margin is, we want to first cost out the recipe. And yeah, we're back on the front page, sorry. Back on the front page. And then we want to subtract the cost from the menu price, right? We sell it, subtract the cost, and whatever's left over is our contribution margin. Okay. So in the interest of time, we're going to subtract those. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to give you the answers. Okay. So $6.45 is your chicken sandwich contribution margin. Hamburger is $4.75. Crab cakes are $4.20. And chili cheeseburgers are $6. Okay, everything else is given for you. Okay, so which one has our biggest contribution margin?
Chicken sandwich.
The chicken sandwich at $6.45. Which one has the lowest contribution margin? Crab cakes at $4.20, right? So how do we know where everything else is? Where else does everything lie between the low and the high? Okay, we're gonna find the average contribution margin. So how do we find the average contribution margin? We add up all of our contribution margins, which Excel tells me is $44.10. Okay. And I'm going to divide by what? Why 8? That's the number of items I have, right? So I divide 4410 divided by 8. And I get $5.51. $5.51 is my average contribution margin. Okay. Average contribution margin of $5.51.
So I thought that you, so it came out to 5.575. Normally you would go 5.2 usually.
Yes, yeah, Excel is not gonna do the rounding rules, yeah.
I just wanted.
But in this case, in this particular example, it's not gonna make too much of a difference unless something is 551 or 552. But mostly it's gonna be somewhere, it's gonna be definitively higher or lower than the average.
So do we just do that whenever we're trying to like?
Cost out things, yeah,
Okay.
good catch. Yep,
So that 551, what is it called again? You said?
that's the average contribution margin, okay? And so that's basically what I'm going to use as my determining factor. So is 645, is that higher or lower than 551? 475? Lower. 420? Lower. 6? High. 475? Lower. 570? Higher. And veggie burgers? Higher. Okay? So that's how we find the average contribution margin. 551. And then we basically are going to compare each one of these items to. The biggest mistake that I see students do is they compare the contribution margin to the actual, like, so they compare the 551 to the 645 and they'll say it's lower. But you have to compare the 645 to the 551. You're comparing the items number to the actual average. Okay. So now 551. Yep.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. So what the mistake that a lot of students make is, let's take a look right here. When I'm looking at 645 and 551, right? They're looking at the average. A lot of students will say that 551 is lower than 645. But in reality, what you have to say is the
You're
chicken
comparing.
sandwich is higher than the average, right? They compare the average to the item. What you have to do is you have to compare the item to the average. Okay. So now that we've done that, we can fill out our chart. Okay. What I recommend as you fill out this chart is that you look at one category, high, that's the easiest one, right? 2 H's, and just stick with that category and go all the way down the list. Don't try to go line by line because you might get thrown off a little bit, especially with the puzzles and plow horses. But start with high. So what are my stars?
Chicken sandwich.
Okay, so chicken sandwich,
Chili cheeseburger.
chili cheeseburger, and
Bacon cheeseburger.
bacon cheeseburger. Those are my stars, high. The next one is low. That's the easiest one to find because it's 2 L's. So which one is our low?
Crab cakes.
Crab cakes, okay. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Now the next one is high popularity, but low contribution margin. That's our plow horses. High popularity, low contribution margin. So you're looking for H and then L. Which one do we have? Hamburger and BLT. Okay. And then the last one, of course, is going to be our high contribution margin. It's not very popular. We have veggie burgers and corn dogs. Okay. So we just did a menu analysis. We just analyzed our different menu items based on their popularity and how much they contribute to our profitability. Okay? So, just because crab cakes are in the dogs, do we just get rid of them? No, why? Maybe, maybe not. Why would we consider keeping them?
Find ways to sell them, like discount.
They still bring money in.
Maybe people don't know about it. And so maybe we have to advertise it more, right? We have to promote it. And then anybody have you ever go through a drive-through? They're like, would you like to try our double cheeseburger today? Right? They're trying to draw your attention to that item. So maybe people just don't know we have them. What else? Why else? Maybe we might take them away and bring them back, make them more seasonal, as a special, right? So right now they're not selling that well, but maybe during Lent, when people aren't eating red meat, maybe people would eat more seafood-based stuff, right? So understanding what our menu can do. We have 5 minutes. Okay. So veggie burgers and corn dogs. They're really super contribution to our profit, right? They contribute to our profitability, but they're not super popular. So we're just gonna get rid of them because they're not popular? No, why not? Go ahead, Sebastian.
Make money.
They do make money, okay? But why would we not maybe want to consider getting rid of them? What characteristic about those two items?
Specifically, I was thinking that's a kid thing.
It's a kid item,
Yeah,
right?
the
Corn
double
dogs. And if they're frozen, right? They don't really take up that much space in the freezer. They have a long shelf life. Maybe we don't order as much, but we still have them on hand. What about the veggie burgers? It's
Vegetarians.
the only vegetarian option we have, right? So if we get that off the list, then no vegetarians are gonna come in, okay? Or maybe we might have to look and see, maybe we change the recipe and do a different, change the recipe for the crab cakes, and maybe that may make it a little bit more profitable and maybe more popular, okay? The BLT, how can we get that BLT over to that star category, right? We either have to raise the price, we have to charge higher price for it, or maybe you're like me and I love 8 pieces of bacon on my BLT because I want actual bacon on my BLT, right? And so maybe 8 pieces is too much and the cost is too high. So maybe we change the recipe, maybe only put 4 pieces of bacon on our BLT.
A double BLT.
Double BLT, yep, and charge the extra bacon, yeah, right? But if I go in and I order that BLT and then one day I go in and they've cut the bacon portion in half, you think I'm gonna notice that? Yeah, and if they didn't change that menu price, I'm gonna be like, hold on, wait a minute. You kept the same price, less ingredients, this price value relationship's out of balance. I'm not gonna order this BLT anymore, right? Yes.
Would it be possible to maybe get a better, I guess a better bacon, so you can have more less strips, but a better texture, I guess?
Yeah, maybe get like the thicker cut bacon, so then 4 slices might actually be enough to satisfy. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Then would you have to change, you'd have to take into account that you have the bacon cheeseburger too, so you're using 2 different kinds of bacons now, or?
Or maybe you just have the same bacon and that changes the price of the cost of, yeah, so we'll talk about that next class. Absolutely, okay? So what could potentially happen is we change the price or we do something about the recipe and then all of a sudden it's no longer popular because people aren't buying it anymore, right? And so a menu analysis is not a one and done thing. You make some kind of change, you wait a period of time, and then you go back and reanalyze everything, okay? So in my last 2 minutes, I want to show you, yes.
Would be a good amount of time to wait and if you're doing that, analyzing it.
That's a good question. I don't think there is a set amount of time that you want to wait. You may analyze it on a daily basis to see like if it's a special, how many items people are buying, how many of the item or people are buying. You may want to do it like on a weekly basis. So it kind of just depends. So there's not like I can't give you like a set time, try a month, but I mean I would say between a week to a month. Because you want to have time for people to sell it and buy it and whatnot. Okay, so if you guys will indulge me, I know I'm going over time, but I really want to. Hold on. really want to make sure that I go over this homework, okay? Because I would like this homework done before you come to class on, let's try. There we go. I would like this homework done before you come to class on Thursday, okay? So on Thursday, we're gonna do an in-class activity and an in-class menu analysis, okay? But I would like you to do this popularity benchmark and average contribution margin. I'd like you to have that done before you come to class, because that's going to help you secure these concepts of the benchmark and the average contribution margin. Okay. So real quick, let me show you questions 16, 15, 14, and 13. Those are your average contribution margins. So what you have to do is you have to subtract and find out what your contribution margins are, and then find out your average. And that's what answer you're going to put right there. Okay. Then for the benchmark, the popularity benchmark, questions 1, 2, 3, and 4 are basically the same question. They're just asking for a different menu category. Okay. So they're asking, you'll notice in question 1 through 4, the percentage is 75. So I'm going to show you the number 1. We're asking for appetizers. Remember, this is where you do 100 divided by the number. So 5 appetizers. That's 20.
Mr. Minsky.
Hold on, Tanner. Please don't interrupt me. Multiply by 0.75, and my answer is 15. That's my benchmark, is 15. Okay. And then you come down to question number 2, and now it's going to ask you about the salads. So same 75 percentage, but we're changing the number of items in each category. So this is going to give you a lot of practice of doing that 100 divided by the menu items times whatever percentage is given. Okay. So question 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we have entree and 75%. Now we have dessert and 75%. Questions 5, 6, 7, 8 is 80%. And we have maybe even the same or different numbers in the categories. So appetizer, appetizer, salad, salad, entree, dessert. And then questions 9, 10, 11, 12. Now we're looking at 95%. And then different numbers in each category. Okay, so you're basically practicing over and over and over again this 100, this benchmark, 100 divided by the number times the percentage that's given. Okay, so please have that done before you come to class on Thursday. We're going to do 2 activities. So Thursday class is going to go pretty quickly with the 2 activities we have in store. All right, and as a reminder, we do not have class at all next week. You are going to be working on your project stuff, introducing your project, okay? Next week while I am out of town.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Tanner, sorry, language?
Sorry, I didn't know I wasn't muted.
Yeah, okay.